Hello, welcome to my video about traffic filters. This is accurate information about what's going to go on in Oxford. I'm going to tell you today why is the trial happening, why is the County Council doing it, the details of the scheme, and then some practical information to help you plan. I'm Zuhura Plummer, I'm at Oxfordshire Liveable Streets. We want the filters to succeed, but we're focused on giving people information so they can actually understand what's going on as simply as possible and accurate information. There's so much rubbish on social media, I decided to make this video. We're not funded by the County Council and I'm making this video completely off my own bat. So why is the filters happening? Basically, Oxfordshire is facing some really serious growth. We had an 11% rise in population in the last decade and we're due a 15% rise in population in the next decade. We've got 100,000 homes going up around the county. We're about halfway through that now. You'll have seen them going up in villages all over Oxfordshire, but there's more to come. Now, we're lucky. We live in a place with lots of employment, lots of skills, lots of jobs. People want to come and live here. Industry wants to come here. But what it does mean is an awful lot of housing, which means an awful lot of cars on the road. The darker blue areas are the areas that are going to have the biggest increase in population, and about 100,000 more houses means about 142,000 more cars. Just to give you a sense, that's about 3 Oxfords worth of cars all around the county. If just 10% of them are coming in and out of Oxford every day, that is a huge increase. Now, we can manage the growth, we really can, but not if everybody wants to drive. So if you get some people on buses and some people on bikes, we can manage it, but those who can swap need to swap. At the moment, we're in a bit of a negative loop. Cars are the main way that most people get in and out, especially from more rural areas into Oxford, and congestion increases when it does. The buses slow down, they're not reliable. People don't use them, the bus routes get cut, and also you get horrible cycling and walking. People who want to don't because they're worried it's dangerous. So people have no choice but to drive. So we're stuck in this negative loop, and loops are self-reinforcing, aren't they? So how do you get into a positive loop? If you have faster and more buses, like more routes and more frequency and safer cycling and walking, people have other choices but to drive, and then you get fewer cars on the road, and again, it's a positive reinforcement. I wish there was a way to make the buses faster overnight and do that first and start the loop there. There isn't a way to do that. There's basically bus lanes on every road into Oxford that you can fit a bus lane. There's nothing particularly within the county's powers to dramatically speed up the buses. So they've decided to focus here and get fewer cars on the road. And so they're focused on traffic filters, and it's like a single point of change where everybody in the county, really, well, Oxford and around, and people coming in and out of Oxford, have to think about how they're getting around and reconsider and swap if they can. That's big employers thinking about how their staff are going to get to work. Individuals, all kinds of people have got a single point of change where everybody's doing it. The big gains are the buses, so traffic drops dramatically across the city and massively within the centre. Buses get faster. You've got 159 new electric buses, which are a direct result of the filters, new bus routes and route improvements. So the completely new bus routes, which is really exciting, is this green line down here, which is going to go round Northfield Brook and Blackbird Leys and up to the JR and Brooks and Churchill, but also a doubling of the frequency of the H2. So it's called these like orbital routes or loop buses. And what the bus companies in the county are trying to do is get the buses flowing across East Oxford so you don't have to go into the centre of town and out again to change. So that's where the new routes are focused in that area, because the majority of the population of Oxford live in this side of the city, and so you want to be able to sort out the Eastern Arc bus routes. The other immediate gains are much cleaner air. Nitrous oxide is horrible. It's horrible for kids, it's horrible for babies, it's horrible for old people, all kinds of people. That's the baseline data in 2019, and this is what is predicted with the filters. It's a really dramatic decrease. And then the other immediate gains are safer roads. So you have 5 fewer casualties from people who walk, 11 fewer casualties from people who drive, and 18 fewer casualties from people who cycle. That's 34 people every year who are predicted, according to the traffic filter modelling, to not get killed or injured on the roads. That's absolutely huge. And then this one is a really big one for me. I love the NHS, and it's struggling at the moment for a whole lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is we are sitting down a lot. If you do 20 minutes of exercise, your risk of getting one of these horrible things drops dramatically. You can see it there, 40% heart disease risk drop, a 50% risk drop of getting osteoporosis. it's costing the NHS a lot of money, and what we need to do is just make it easier for people to make better choices. So shall I get in the car? Oh no, it's a massive pain, the traffic filter's there. All right, I'll dig the bike out the shed, or all right, I'll walk to the bus stop. You build activity into everyday life instead of just sitting in the car, sitting at work, sitting in the car. So everyone agrees there is a problem. Nobody I speak to says there isn't. And they say, yeah, we should do something about it. And I'm like, okay, great. So the traffic filters then, and people are like, no, not that. And I'm like, okay, what about a congestion charge? Would you have preferred that? And they're like, no, not a congestion charge. And I'm like, okay, what about the third thing that this other city is doing? And they're like, no, not that. The thing is, if you want to do something about it, that involves doing something. Like, it means that you have to pick a policy, and no policy is perfect. There is no perfect solution at all. Unicorns don't exist, and policy unicorns don't exist. The traffic filters are not perfect, but that is what the county have decided on, and it is a lot better than searching for the perfect policy while all those houses get built, in my opinion. So first of all, before I go any further, I'm just going to talk quickly at the names of things. Bus gates already exist in Oxford. There's 5 of them in the city centre. They've been in about 25 years. LTNs already exist. There's lots of them across Oxford since the 1980s until now, but most famously East Oxford. Traffic filters is what I'm talking to you today about. There's 6 of them going to be across Oxford from the end of this year. There's going to be loads of passes and loads of exemptions. So this is where the filters are going to be. The important thing to remember is that every single part of the city is reachable by car without going through a filter. So you can get to every part of the city without using a pass or without passing through a filter. So for example, if you work at the hospital and you live in Bicester, you can come in from wherever you would normally come in. And if you're coming around the ring road, you can come in here, or you can go in there. You can get into East Oxford from anywhere in the ring road. You can get to the Westgate Centre or the train station down the Botley Road. You can come in, if you work in North Oxford, down any of those roads. You can get to every single part of the city without passing through a filter. However, they are on 7 till 7 every day in the centre of those blue filters. The orange to outer filters are on 7 till 9, 3 till 6, Monday to Saturday. So they're not switched on during the middle of the day, and they're not switched on Sundays. If you go through a filter without using a pass or without having an exemption, you'll be fined £35, which changes to £70 after 21 days. I just want to talk quickly about the outer 2. A lot of people say to me, I don't mind the ones in the centre, but I don't agree with the Marston Ferry Road one or the Holloway one. The majority of the population of Oxford live inside this yellow circle. The population of Oxford is massively skewed to the east of Oxford. If you don't have those filters, you don't get that change across the whole city at once. You need everybody to be doing it, and everyone to have to think about their journeys at the same time. It's not enough for a small group of people to be doing it, because you don't get that flip from that negative loop into that positive loop with the faster bus. If you don't have those 2 filters, you're missing out a huge section of the population. But also, the Eastern Arc buses are completely reliant on those roads functioning really, really well. So those fantastic orbital bus routes that are going to connect all that densely populated part of Oxford need those 2 filters. Okay, exemptions are really important. One of the reasons I really support the scheme is because it recognises that some people have more of an ability to change out of their car than other people. So these people will have exemptions through the filters. And if you're one of these groups of people, please go to the County Council's website and look at the details. So these are the exemptions you might well expect. Then you've got people who are disabled, people who are health workers or care workers. So your midwives going into home visits, your carers going into care for people. Unpaid carers have exemptions. People receiving frequent hospital treatment have exemptions. SEND school students who get help getting to particular schools will have exemptions. Car clubs, so like your zip car, your co-wheels, those kinds of ones. You can't set up a car club with your mates. It's got to be a real car club. Okay, then there's cars that are used for businesses. So basically, if you carry goods or equipment, you can't swap your journey and you use them for business purposes, you get an exemption. And then there's a smaller group of people who most of you probably are not. Okay, you'll have 3 months notice to sort it out, and there'll be a phone line if you struggle to do things online. Day passes, these are for people who don't fit into the exemption categories. They mean you'll be able to drive through as many of the filters as many times as you like for a day. So people in Oxford will have 100 passes a year. People outside Oxford, but inside Oxfordshire, will have 25 passes a year. So 25 days of the year or 100 days of the year, you can drive through as many of the filters as you like, as many times as you like. The passes are free and they're totally flexible. You must register to get them, and you'll be able to see how many you've used and how many you've got left on an account online. You initiate one by just driving through the filter. You don't have to do anything. The camera picks up your number plate and goes, okay, pass day, and then you're off. 100 passes a year inside this green circle. So basically what you would think of as Oxford, but includes like Dean Court and Botley, and then obviously all of Blackbird Leys and Barton and Cutslow and Greater Leys. 3 sets per household. 25-day passes, 2 sets per household. If you don't live in Oxfordshire, you don't get any passes. This is the most technical part of the entire presentation. Stick with me. So to qualify for a set of passes, you need to have a car owner and a car in a household. You need both of those things. So this household has 2 people and they each own a car. So they each get a set of passes. Car owner, car, set of passes. This household, it's 1 person and they own 2 cars. They get 1 set of passes. Car owner, car, set of passes. This household is 2 people and they share a car and they get 1 set of passes. So you can't trade them between cars. The passes are attached to the car. Anyone can drive it, obviously, as long as you're insured. And you need proof of address, which matches your V5C or your logbook if you're in old money. Practical information. So this is just some useful stuff that hopefully will help you plan. I've put this together in the spirit of helping you think through things. If you are a driver and you drive habitually, you might not have looked at stuff for a long time. And you might be like, oh, didn't know that. So there's way more buses than choices than you think. So there's a flat rate fare of £2. There's a combined thing across all the bus companies. Park and ride's really cheap. You get a discount if you're at certain big employers. You've got this group thing for families. If you don't want to pay for parking in Oxford, you can get everyone onto the bus for under a tenner. And the park and ride is, if you just have parking, actually really cheap. £370 a year, basically £1 a day for unlimited parking at any of the park and rides. Bikes. If you combine them with the park and ride, if you're coming in from further away, then this is a really cheap and good way of getting around, very flexible. Dash bikes are amazing. You get to lease an e-bike, basically. It gives you, they do the repairs, they do the maintenance. If it's stolen, they replace it. Get a helmet and a lock, you're away. Online cycling map is fantastic. If you're one of those people, you're like, oh, I want to cycle in Oxford, but I just don't really know where to go. There's loads more quiet routes than you might realise. Look at the map and see if there's a quiet route from where you live and work and like where you go regularly. I would say with bikes, just try it out. People, when they swap, they're like, oh my God, it's so fast and it's reliable. Like the journey takes the same amount of time, pretty much whatever's going on. And that's a very, very big deal for some people. Okay, lift shares are amazing. They save you money and they save your staff money if you're watching this as an employer. You can set them up with lift share, like the actual company. People can just download the app. You can also do home run if you're a school. It's a lift share thing designed especially for parents to share the school run. Very, very secure. It's been set up in a slightly different way so that it's extremely secure. And then you can also just set it up with WhatsApp groups. So you can ask around in your work to people live near each other, or you can map your staff postcodes if you're an employer watching this. What can you do now to look at the map and think about your journeys? Like check your V5C, find your logbook and check the addresses are correct. Your V5C might be in the attic like mine and you need to find it. Go to oxfordtrafficfilters.co.uk, great website that I made, and it explains it all really simply and just share accurate information. So just want to talk about some change. A lot of people are like, things can never change, it's impossible, there's a certain number of car journeys that need to be made. There isn't. This is a private school which has got a brand new dedicated school bus which they are pushing very, very hard with their parents, and it's going to take away a lot of journeys and get the kids onto a school bus. The hospital is doing free park and ride parking and bus journeys for their staff from 3 of the park and rides to their sites. This school reduced the number of car trips in and out of the school every day by about 20 a day, which really adds up by just talking to their staff, encouraging them to try a different way and leading from the top. And change is possible, but none of these changes would happen if there wasn't the filters. But let's just remind ourselves what the alternative is. The alternative is 100,000 houses, 142,000 more cars on the road, and cross your fingers and hope for the best. I don't personally think that's a very good idea. There's a lot of people who say, oh, we should change, but we can't put any restrictions on anybody. We can't be telling them what to do. Okay, it's not going to work because I wouldn't pay my taxes unless it was the law. Come on, you're not going to change unless you've got some like rules around it, have you? And you need that change all at once, like to flip from the negative loop to the positive loop. It's got to happen like at once. Some people say congestion charge will do something else. You're just kicking the can down the road. The houses are getting built. It's no good. Just a reminder, we have had change before and we have survived. So Core Market used to have buses and cars coming down it. You can see that car coming out of Ship Street. And then when it was pedestrianised, everyone was like, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. It wasn't terrible. Car trips dropped by 17%, but visitor numbers stayed the same. It was okay. And I don't think anyone would seriously argue we should bring back cars down Core Market. So I'm not saying it is going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be easy at all, particularly in the first 6 months. But I do think it is possible. And it's only going to be possible if we act together. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. Share it with people. There's a website, there's all our social media. I've got a longer version of this video, which is less fast and explains things a little bit more, if you can find it on our YouTube. Thanks very much. Bye.